On today's show, we will talk about how do we share our faith, our story, when we work in a secular world, and later we will have Jeannie Becker join us to show us just how she does this very thing. On a previous episode, I talked about how God likes to give me one word or a short phrase, often when it comes to direction in my life. I always pray for a word even for the new year, and this year I felt the word was considerate. Because it's my word, I wanted to spend a little time studying up on it, and I'd like to share a few things with you all. First of all, I'm sure you can say that the world we live in today isn't always the most considerate. Whether it's in action or words, people have become pretty inconsiderate. Maybe it's because of stress, maybe it's because of lack of time, and maybe it's because of some family issues. Whatever the reason, we seem to see it in abundance. We see it everywhere on Facebook, we see it in customer service, and we even see it in our homes. The word considerate means to be careful, not to hurt others, showing careful thought. How often do we truly think before we act or speak? I know I, for one, am not the best at this, which I'm pretty sure is why it's my word. I can get so wrapped up in how I want things to be, how I expect them to be, and then when it doesn't go that way or people aren't acting the way I think they should, I'm not really sure why I think I can get people to do it my way. Anyway, let's just say consideration of others completely goes out the window. It's not that I want it to or that I even like how I act in these moments, but because I can't control people and the way they act or respond, well, here we are. Have you ever heard the statement, I'm not going out, it's too people-y out there? And the problem is there are people everywhere and we are meant to be around them and to enjoy our time with them. So how do we show consideration to them even when they are being those people? Here's a few things I'm going to try. First of all, pray. I'm going to ask for help from God because I just simply cannot do it without Him. The second thing, I'm going to have to be more intentional with this, realizing it's not going to change overnight, taking small steps and trying to think before I speak. And then lastly, and definitely the hardest one for me, will be to apologize when I get it wrong. When that inconsiderate side rears its ugly head, because it will, I simply have to be better at apologizing. Ephesians 4:32 says, be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God in Christ forgave you. So let's try to remember how patient and loving Christ is with us and be more like Him and less like the world. It's not always going to be easy, but we are called to be like Him and to show others His love, one step at a time. So when we come back, we will talk about how important it is to be the hands and feet of God in this everyday world that we live in. And may I just add, if you aren't doing this while being considerate of others, I'm pretty sure they won't care very much about anything you have to say.
This segment is brought to you by Harry's Construction, whose motto is, if you can dream it, we can create it. They are the kitchen and bath design experts, so call Harry's Construction for all your remodeling needs.
When it's time for a new roof, Champion Roofing is your best choice. We're a certified award-winning roofing contractor, meaning your roof is done right the first time. Call today.
Champion Roofing, we're the solution.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. And I just want to remind our viewers out there, if you're not sure where to find us, go to Let's Talk About It on our Facebook page or to Join the City and let us know what you think. Let us know if you have a question. We want to interact with you. So on today's show, though, we're going to talk about what it's like to be in the secular world. You know, all of us work in the Christian,
It's true.
you know, we work in the church.
Yeah.
So we're not maybe surrounded by a lot of people in the secular world. but God still wants to use us in the secular world. So what does that look like for you guys?
Many, many years ago, like 30 years ago, I went to a church out in California, out in the desert. And there was a sign when you left the parking lot. And I love it to this day. I love it. It says, when you leave church, it says you are now entering the mission field.
Oh,
and I love
awesome.
it. To this day, I love it. What goes on in that sanctuary is one thing, but it's what you take out of there. That's a whole nother thing.
Right.
And I just will never forget that you are now entering the mission field.
True.
So what does that look like?
Yeah. For me, I struggled a little bit with it sometimes because, like, for example, later on we're going to have a guest on the show that is a hairdresser. Well, when I would go get my hair done, I didn't want to talk. I'm just not a talker in that sense of it. And sometimes my hair takes 3 to 4 hours getting colored or whatever, but I would just bring a book, be on my phone, whatever. And God was like, this is actually an opportunity for you to minister. And I'm like, but I just want to sit here. So I was missing out sometimes on the opportunities that God was giving me outside the church because I was so like, well, I just want to read or I just want to do this, So I've had to really retrain my thinking as to where those opportunities are.
Well, and that's what I think, being aware of your surroundings and the people who are around you. Absolutely. We have opportunities every single day.
You're right.
Every single day. And I am a church secretary. You work in the church. You're a church, person. We are still around. I use the word perishing, perishing people.
Right.
Every day. And we need to act like it.
Yeah.
Act like we know. And I don't mean act haughty or anything. I just mean be aware of what is going on around us.
Right.
The girls at the bank. I go every week, I make the deposit, and I have gotten to know them. Now, my girls, Sarah and Kristen, used to make fun of me. Mom, do you have to find out everything about everybody? And I was like, yes, as a matter of fact, I do.
And there is simple things that you can do that's not necessarily blasting.
No.
There's a time
Right.
and a place for everything. Sometimes
Absolutely.
it's just a smile. Sometimes it's treating somebody with respect when they technically didn't deserve it. Not overcoming evil with evil, but overcoming evil with good are all portraying Christ, and I believe too that there's a time and place for your testimony, and your testimony can't be all the bad things that happened and then I found Jesus.
No.
That's not your testimony. Like, don't give all the years in Egypt so much credence.
That's right.
That's
right.
Your testimony is, I found the Lord, and this is all the good things that He has done for me and all the good things that He's going to do for me.
Right.
I don't like that when somebody takes an hour talking about all
The dark things.
Yeah, all the dark things, and then 10 seconds on, and then this happened, and
Yeah. You want to show that God is moving. And like,
That's right. And honestly, one of my favorite phrases, and has been for many, many years, is, I want to be Jesus with skin on. Jesus did not beat people over the head with religion.
right.
Jesus loved people right where they are. And that means if I'm at a restaurant and it's obvious that the waitress is having an off day, care about her or him. Just say, are you okay? I want you to know that I see you.
Right.
People want to be seen.
Yeah, they really do. That's and realness. They
That's
just want
right.
realness from
That's
us.
right.
Not like, oh, we have it all together, because we don't.
No.
So just be real and just people. That's what they want.
And the other thing is Jesus says, the world will know that you are my disciples by the way you treat one another.
That's right.
And if we're out there treating our brothers and sisters in Christ terrible,
Yes.
or running our mouths,
Gossiping about them.
why would anybody want
That's right.
to come over?
Why would they want to be part of what
Yes.
we have?
Yes.
Yeah.
I say that all the time.
Yeah,
If we look the
absolutely.
same as everybody
Yeah.
else, then why would they ever run to what we have? Well, they're mean, they're down, they're depressed, they're, So why do I want that?
Right. Right. And I find that even if you develop a relationship with somebody, a friendship in increments, like a waitress, if you get the same waitress at the restaurant you go to, or the same bank girl, or whatever, you can start to show them Jesus, and they'll notice, and an opportunity will come up, not to invite them to church, but to share what Jesus has done in your life, how he has blessed us, or is good to us, or how even he walks with us through the horribleness of life.
Right. And, a big word for me is intentional. I've used it a lot on this show. I use it a lot in my life right now, because for me, I wasn't intentional with it. So then it just didn't happen. So I've had to become more intentional and say, God, show me opportunities.
That's right.
Show me opportunities where I can minister. Not like, here's a Bible.
No.
How can I minister with kindness? How can I minister with servanthood? What are the ways that you would have me be used in the restaurant, in the grocery store, in the school? Because this is where I'm going that's outside the church. These are the places my feet are going. So how can I be used in those places? And I mentioned this author in a previous episode, but I'm going to mention him again. Bruce Wilkinson did a book called You Were Born for This. And when I read that book, it talks so much about how God wants to use you in everyday opportunities, everyday things that that you think are just mundane things that you have to go do. Like, who wants to go to the grocery store?
Right.
Not me. But when you go, how and where could he use you in that place? When you're going to a restaurant, and your waitress, like you said, maybe you can tell she's having an off day. How can you then be used in that moment? And these are the everyday things that we should be looking for to be seen. It's not always about the testimony. You're right.
Yeah, I do believe that. And just like you said about in a restaurant, we went to a restaurant Sunday after church, and John forgot his bank card somewhere on Friday night, and we just hadn't picked it up yet. And the kid says, I know, he says, the waiter, he says, I forget my wallet, or my daughter takes my wallet out of my pants pocket at the end of the night, and she's little, and she'll look to see if he has tip money in there. And she'll go, oh, it was a good night, Daddy. And he was just so cute. And so I filled out the slip, because we had to use my bank card, and I tipped him, and John pulls out a 20, and he says, put this in there too. He says, I want his little girl to know that he had a good day.
Oh, that's amazing.
He had a good day. So I wrote on the slip, tell your little girl it was a good day.
Yeah.
And, and those are just little God moments.
Right.
Those are just little God moments.
But you have to, sometimes we bypass them or miss them because we're so busy. Okay,
Absolutely.
now I need to go here, or I need to do this. And that's where I think that intentional word comes in. Just being more intentional in the moments.
Yep. We were in a restaurant again, and I happened to notice an elderly gentleman about my age sitting over by himself, and he was struggling with his napkin, and he was really struggling. I just said to my John, I'll be right back. And I just went over and I said, let me help you with this. And I just helped him a little bit. Went and sat back down. It was no big deal. But do you know, when somebody else left, they said, I appreciate it so much that you walked over and helped him. People notice when we are kind.
Right.
And I want people to think I'm nice.
Yeah.
Or I want them to know I'm nice, because I think I am nice,
I want them to know I love Jesus, and he makes a difference.
Makes me nice.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
So viewers, it's more about the word, not about the words that are coming out of your mouth, but about our actions and how people are perceiving us to be. And let me end with this verse, Matthew 5:14-16. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand and gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. When we come back, we'll have Jeannie Becker with us.
New Life Worship Center's tax ministry is in their 13th year of serving. This is an organization who will do your taxes, and they only ask for a $30 donation to benefit local charities. They will e-file federal and state returns and complete local returns for you to mail in. They can handle everything from basic family returns to rentals and property returns. Contact New Life Worship Center's tax team on Facebook or by calling them today. Impact Productions, a multi-layer technology company providing on-site, online, and in-studio video services. Contact Impact Productions to capture your story.
Welcome back to Let's Talk About It. And today we have Jeannie Becker with us, who is a great friend of mine, and I just love her so much. And she's just gonna, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into why we brought you here.
Okay. I'm a hairstylist. I have been for 30 plus years. I still love doing that. I have a passion for it. I'm glad that's never gone. I've created so many great relationships in my job, get to know people so well. There's a lot of people that have been with me since I started doing hair. So that's a pretty good feeling.
It is.
Yeah.
She's done my hair, so I like it. But we brought you here today because, we talked earlier that we kind of all work in the Christian atmosphere of things mostly. But you have the opportunity to work in the secular world, working on people's hair, and this gives you a lot of opportunities to minister in ways that we sometimes don't get. So we'd just like to hear how that is for you.
Well, it's kind of an unfolding for me, still in the unfolding. I've been doing hair, like I said, for a long time, and I used to be honest, live much more worldly than I did godly. And I think that came a lot from just not understanding and how to develop that relationship with the Lord. And in the past 4.5 years of my life, that's really unfolded. And it's been a beautiful experience for me and continues to be. And like I said, I have clients that have been with me for a really long time, and they have seen that transpire. And some of them have actually said to me, they might say something and then I'll, whatever we're talking about, I'll respond back to it and say, you probably didn't think I was going to say that, did you? They're like, no, you've come a long way. So that's great when my clients see that difference. I love it.
So Jeannie, did you go to church before?
I did. Yeah, I grew up Catholic early on, and then went to Methodist church, and then I started coming here.
So
like
you
I said,
were
about 4.5
religious. You just didn't have the relationship that changes everything.
Right. I didn't have the understanding. Yeah. And it did change everything once I started to get that.
Awesome.
Yes, it's been amazing. Yes.
And everybody knows that, like hair salons, that's the place where it's one-on-one, sometimes 3 or 4 hours with one
You're a therapist.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think
Yes.
like that made a great platform for you.
Yes, it did. We used to joke, not to be, I hope this isn't inappropriate, but people used to say, a bartender and a hairdresser hears everything. And I used to say, but the bartender gets to put the drink down and walk away.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I don't have to do that.
The hairdresser, they keep coming back every month.
Yeah. And, and let's face it, it's a gossip world, especially in a salon. And I'm glad to say that I never really engaged in that, or if I did, it was a one-on-one. I didn't spread things. And my clients, I think, trust me for that reason. They know I'm not going to repeat. If they say this is between you and I, it's between them and me. But it's pretty much open field. It's like yeah.
So, like she said, they're sitting there sometimes 3-4 hours.
Yes.
So there's a lot of conversations that can go on, and a lot of opportunities that can arise to share your story or to share helpful, tips that you've learned in these 4 years.
And I have people who have been with me a long time that share things with me. And surprisingly, I have people on a first-time visit that will share things with me. So I kind of when I started to change and have more of a relationship with the Lord, I started to just kind of drip in conversations.
Oh, that's
just
good.
to see where it would go. Because here's the one thing I have to remember: they're paying me for a service. They're not paying me for a sermon. Okay, so I have to always keep that at the forefront. But if I feel warmth when I do that drip, I'll go a little further, and before you know it, oh my goodness, I'm to the point now I have clients that will text me and say, can you and your husband pray for this person, or can you pray for me? Or they'll share things with me like, hey, I read this book and you should check it out, or they'll send me a YouTube video on something, and it's really cool. People will come in now sometimes and sit down in my chair, and before I even say, what are we doing today, they're already talking about, hey, you know, this or that. And it's usually on a godly basis, which is real exciting.
And we were talking earlier just how it's not always what you say, it's how you care about a person. And you have a unique opportunity to care about people that other people don't have.
Right. And I don't take that for granted.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful thing, because you know, you develop that one-on-one, and it's such a good feeling to know that they trust you and they want to share with you. You know, it's really I like that as much as doing the hair, if not more.
I mean, if a woman trusts you with her hair,
That's right.
they're going to trust you with other things, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so they come in, and what's neat that I've heard you say is, you know, some of these clients have been around since the beginning. So you've been able to build a relationship with them. So it's not like, oh, here's the Bible, get into the Word. No, you've built a relationship where now you can open into conversations that maybe the first time they visited you, you weren't able to, but now because you have that relationship.
You've earned their respect.
Right.
You've earned their respect.
And I think the thing too, for me, is that's probably helped develop that is I didn't just jump right into that. I'm still learning about God. I'm still learning about Jesus. And, you know, so it's not like I have a whole lot to throw at them right away, but that's growing. And the more that grows, the more I share and the more we talk about it.
Right.
Let's talk about it.
That's right. But your story, we all have a testimony. And it doesn't have to be that we were, you know, drug addicts and strung out. It can be, I was lost, and now I am found.
Yes. Yes, that's how it feels.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
so have you worked at a lot of different salons, or do you own your own?
I did, but I sold it, but I still work there.
Okay.
So I've worked at 2 places before I went out on my own back in '99.
Okay.
And then I expanded it in 2003, and then I ended up selling it a few years later.
Okay.
But I'm still there.
Good.
Yeah.
She enjoys it.
I do. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
And do you ever have those days where they're just, the intake is heavy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll go home from work and just say to Steve, I just need to decompress. You know, because I don't mind talking to my clients all day. But then when I go home, I'm like, I don't want the phone to ring. I don't want to talk anymore right now.
That's how we sometimes feel after we do 4 episodes of the show.
Yes, like
okay.
you just like sensory overload type headache.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's good while it's going on.
Sure. Yep.
But then at the end of the day, it's like,
Breathe and no one talk to me. I'm done talking.
yeah.
Now I want to talk about real quick one other thing that I've seen in your life that I think is amazing is that you also have allowed God to use you in restaurants in a pretty cool way. Share us one of those stories.
So actually that started out with my husband and I, or my husband and his coworker, I'm sorry. They started a thing where they do fundraisers and sell like Gardner's candy and meat
Which
sticks.
I've bought a lot off of her.
And so they take the earnings from that and help people in need. And they've done several different things with it, but when they do that, they take their wives with them. So Bill's wife comes along and I come along, and I think a couple of the highlights that have really struck us was around COVID, when places started to reopen and we know what waitresses make, or should we say don't make. So we would go into restaurants, and sometimes Steve and Bill would talk to the manager before we would go in and find out if there was someone in need. Other times we would pray about it in the parking lot before we would walk in and say, put us at the table you need us to be at. And so
I love that.
Yeah, we would end up just blessing the waiter or waitress, sometimes even more than one. And there's a restaurant in town actually that Steve called the manager and said, would it be okay if we called your staff together and prayed for them? And he was like, I know you're really busy and we don't want to take all this time, but she said absolutely she would do it. She had all the waiters and waitresses come to the front foyer in front of everybody walking in, and we were in a circle with them and just prayed for them. And it was amazing. This one girl I didn't even know, she ended up just breaking down and said, can I hug you? And she just started pouring out. Like, that's a blessing to me. They feel like they got blessed, but the blessings to me too, you know? Yeah, it's beautiful.
So here's the thing, ladies, and here to our viewers. You can be used anywhere, anytime.
Yes.
If you're just willing and open. So let God use you in the restaurants, in the workplace, wherever it may be. And when we come back, we'll have your tip.
Hey y'all, it's Dano. Check this out. Hey, we got some exciting news. Dano on the Counter, Season 2 on Fox 8 at 8 a.m. Make sure you check it out.
A few episodes back, I talked about how important it is that we share our stories of God's goodness in our lives with others. But sometimes that's easier said than done because we may not be sure what to say, or we may even allow fear to set in. So my tip for today is, if you're not sure how to share with others, how to share your story of salvation, maybe write it out. Take some time to sit down and write out how you got saved and the journey that He has taken you on since that day. Look it over and decide, what are the important points in my story? Maybe even then ask a fellow believer to read through and give you some advice. But ultimately, this is your story, so you know it best. But we can sometimes get nervous and then start to ramble on. So this is just a simple way to get your thoughts organized. Sometimes we only have a short time to share with someone, so we want to make sure we are prepared in these moments, and writing it out can help with that. I would even encourage you to read it out loud once you've written it, and then maybe even record yourself so that you can hear what you've said. Timing it would also be very helpful. Now here's the thing, although we want to be prepared, especially if this is something that you're uncomfortable with, it doesn't need to sound rehearsed either. People just want to hear from your heart. So ask God to direct your steps and to give you the right words to say. You see, I believe this is a two-step process. 1, being prepared, and then 2, letting God do the rest. It's important that we are willing and open to being used in any moment. God doesn't always tell us when that's going to be, so being prepared will make it a little less stressful when those opportunities do come your way. People need to know and hear how God has changed your life, how He has moved in amazing ways, and how He has provided for you. It's your story, so get ready to share it with others. I mean, our show is called Let's Talk About It. So until next time, get out there and talk about it.